YouTube, good day, whatever time it is. When you check in on this video, welcome. Thanks for checking us out. Hey, the time has arrived. We're here. I'm getting this supporter appreciation giveaway out and to the masses. Getting this started. Took me a while to get some things accumulated. I was contacted by, we have a giveaway sponsor, channel sponsor. Gonna have to be a big thank you to them about going to who's sponsoring and helping out with the contest here in a second. But yeah, this is gonna be our giveaway for the getting to 2,000 subscribers. So thanks to everybody that's come over to the channel, been supporting and whatnot. It's been a good ride. I have forgotten how bad I am, maybe how hard it is to do staged videos. I don't do staged videos very often, and I never was very good at it. So we'll struggle through this together, but I'll try to get through this quickly. But with the contest, what's it going to be about? I'm going to keep it pretty simple. I'm going to do it old school YouTube. We're going to do comment below for one entry. In the comment below, just give me some constructive criticism of what you would like to see better on the channel, what you want more of, what you want different. You know, all with, you know, within reason. You've seen the channel description or what I usually do videos about. You know, something within that realm. I'm not going to be testing food items or anything crazy like that anytime soon. Within the realm of what I do on the channel normally, just tell me what you want to see, or what I could do better, or what you think about the channel. I know I got a lot of people that have come on board in the last year, so maybe some good ideas out there about things people like about the desert or whatever that I just haven't thought about. Now, you know, customer satisfaction is what this is all about, right? And then going back to, and then so let's put that comment in the just in below in the comment boxes. Hope to see a lot of good stuff there. And we'll get you an entry into the giveaway that way. Of course, we're going to do it old school YouTube. You're going to have to do a VR. You get 2 entries for a VR. And in the VR, pretty simple. Just want to hear what you like about the channel, however you want to describe it. And then recommend another channel to the rest of the people that watch this channel, or whoever might see the VRs. I'll go to the VR list. I'll mention who you have recommended from your VR, and so be giving that channel a secondary shout out and whatnot. So we get some spread the word, spread the wealth. So let me know about what you like about this channel, and recommend a small channel to everybody. And let us know what they do and kind of what they are into on the YouTube and whatnot. When you do that VR, take that link from that video and put it in the comments down below here, so that I know that you've done it, and I can roger up and like it and make sure I'm tracking that I'm getting them all. So bring it back here, put in the comment box that VR, so that I know who has entered or who has done a VR. That gets 2 entries. So you can end up with three VRs, the window closed on the other thing, and I didn't get no participation, so no big deal. So most important thing, how long do you have? We're going to end this contest on September 1st at midnight. So that would be 23:59 hours on September 1st. Once that rolls over, that's your last minute to make an entry and get a link in the. Hey, good morning, YouTube. So there's your friendly reminder. Get your contest entry in and enjoy the giveaway. So what's going on out there, YouTube? We got a lot to catch up with, or at least I think I do. I got a ton of stuff pulled up here. We'll see how much we get through, which is kind of the reason I wanted to start a little early, and plus send out the reminder. But yeah, Tommy Boy, exactly. Starting a little bit early today. Maybe I'm just taking Wes S's advice and trying to get it on his time, but I still don't think this is early enough. 15 minutes, this ain't going to cut it. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, welcome, folks.
Thanks for checking in. Real quick weather snapshot. Let me refresh that. Just double check. Like 01 Crimes, been getting a lot of weather lately. Rain, snow, or otherwise. You got that huge mass. Looks like more tornado potential coming through Iowa there. So watch out. M. Long, good morning. How you doing? And looks like Walter Davis is getting some rain too. So JJ McKay up on the UP looks like he's probably going to get something. So everybody's getting a little weather today, unless you're out west and it's just clear and nice, and it's sweatshirt weather. Sweatshirt weather has returned, at least in the morning, which is kind of cool. So we're feeling the fall creeping in, but I think we're going to be rudely awakened with a little more summer here later in the week. Get a heat up a little bit more again. Midwest Prepper, how's it going? It's like that weather's barreling right at you. Watch out. Any day on this side of the grass is a great day, right? Right. Today is the day they dump all the news on people they want to ignore, right? Right before a holiday on a Friday. Yep. Yeah, no doubt. This is always hide it in the news Friday. It never goes without fail. Something gets hidden. We might be able to cover that tomorrow morning when we do the news, what they've tried to keep under the radar, or say, hey, we told everybody. Just because you didn't notice doesn't mean we didn't tell you. Right? So I got a ton of stuff to discuss here, not least of which is the weather, potential hurricanes developing off the coast down in the Caribbean, it looks like. Hey, Tommy boy, you're doing waffles this morning? Right on. It's a good way to get started. Nothing wrong with that. So I'm going to try to kick back, get this coffee kick starting me a little bit so we can push through this information. But it's definitely been a busy news week, and I miss Wednesday, so I might backtrack a little on stuff that we already know about, but we can still discuss it together here. In particular, this New Mexico situation is just bizarre beyond belief. It even went further off the rails than I thought it would. When I said they had a 3-1 odds of not going to trial, I thought it was because they were going to leave the country, not because the legal system was just going to hand them a free out. This has got to be the most bizarre thing. I don't know in how many lifetimes has anybody saw a potential murder basically get dropped by a district attorney because they didn't do the proper paperwork. And the judge just accepts it and lets it roll. Most bizarre thing ever. So this link is out of the UK paper. And I got another one from the local paper. I just want to get the two perspectives. So the DA was supposed to schedule a hearing to prove probable cause within 10 days. This is apparently but this is the same. So it says 2 judges dismissed charges on Wednesday against the defendants. It says Judge Emilio Chavez said he had no choice but to release the 3 defendants. So the 3 most likely potential murders, because the DA, Donald Gallegos, who should probably just not even think about running for office. Well, I'm not sure if in New Mexico DAs are elected or not. In most places they are. Just bury him out back with all the other rusted out politicians and put him away. If you folks in New Mexico reelect that fella, you deserve what you get. But it says the DA failed to schedule a court hearing to prove that he had probable cause for their arrest within 10 days. What was the initial bond hearing from? There was no probable cause to hold them on bond? Just because they were given release doesn't mean I don't get it. Another judge later ruled that charges also be dropped against the other 2 remaining defendants. So this is a 5 in total. I had only heard 3. Okay, hold on. Let me keep going here. Another judge later ruled that charges also be dropped against the other 2 remaining defendants, Siraj Vahaj and Lanny Laville, according to a reporter from local TV. But the status of their potential release is less clear, as they were immediately charged again with more severe charges of child abuse resulting in death. The other 3 weren't charged with. What do you mean more severe? Why weren't they charged with the most severe charges to begin with? This DA, folks in New Mexico, really fornicating the process here. Says for whatever reason, the state did not attain a preliminary hearing date within 10 days. So how did this get before the judge if they hadn't already scheduled a court date? I wish they had an explanation, said the representative who represents Subna Vahaj. They provided none to us or the court. I would have thought they'd be more on top of things. Yeah, we all would think that. The way they continue to seek to hold them without bond, which I thought reviewed the potentials for holding probable cause, right there. That didn't they cover probable cause in that hearing? So combined with the details, law enforcement officials said they found 11 children, as well as the body of Siraj Wahaj's 3-year-old son, Abdul Ghani. And the accusations made in court by prosecutors, but cautioned against by a judge that the defendants were extremists engaged in terrorism in a terrorism training camp. Go figure. Mr. Gallegos' office did not return a request for comment. Somebody tell me this DA wasn't paid off by Al Qaeda. He had to have been. There's no other way this happens without pressure from the feds, I don't think. I just don't. How are you that incompetent to do such a thing? This article goes on down for a little bit. And it's another thing here, too, that says the judge's hands were tied because the rules are very clear, but judges exercise all kinds of discretion in the courtroom. They've done it all the time. We've seen what they've done to the Bundys and all the other defendants in those cases. They can lock things down on the slightest of need, I guess you'd say. This is just the system letting them go. That's the bottom line. You can chastise the DA for a formality, but still open up hearings and stuff. I don't know. The most bizarre thing ever. Hey, Galenas Vilcus, good morning. How's it going? You're out with a walk and a cup of coffee. Right on. Yeah, it's sweatshirt weather here as well. So also as a reminder, Siraj Vahaj, which is how I'm going to say it until I hear it on TV, I guess, or on the internet. I haven't heard it said out loud, I don't think, was at one point subject to an extradition to Georgia, where he has a warrant issued for his arrest on suspicion of abduction. Just don't forget this. I mean, if the kid's from Georgia, shouldn't Georgia file murder charges or something? But there's no evidence from New Mexico because they did bulldoze it all. Oh man, makes your head hurt just thinking about the cover up. So it doesn't mention that he's being extradited. It just says he had a warrant out, so they haven't got that warrant going. So the original two that were set for release were immediately charged a second time by the sheriff's office after the judge dismissed their charges. But the judge questioned the legitimacy of the new charges and set another hearing for Tuesday. It does say here that Judge McElroy is hammering the DA's office. He says he doesn't know if the office is overworked or what, but he finds it disturbing the state did not play by the rules. Well, they very rarely do, so they probably got surprised by that themselves. I guess we made it in the news here and didn't even know it. So the closes out in the last paragraph. Court officials said they had never seen such a voluminous or vitriolic response to a court ruling. On Wednesday, some far-right conspiracy theorists began spreading baseless theories about why the prosecution had let the case lapse. Yeah, we're going to hypothesize. Call us names if you want. You don't just drop a case like that without cause. It doesn't seem like they let far, far lesser things get absolutely hammered to the wall because of an agenda. So the local NBC out of this is NBC out of Oregon. This isn't even out of New Mexico. My goodness, I thought I had dang it. Anyway, this is just a brief summary. Doesn't even get into speculation or research. Yeah, it just basically says what happens and that's it. And the DA would even charge with the least charge. You would think that they would get away. I mean, it'd be a slam dunk. First degree child abuse resulting in death. Not going for murder, not going for manslaughter, like even a lesser charge in the long run. And they couldn't let that get that to stick. Let's see what this video says here. Hey, Rooster, good morning. What's going on? Of course, there was no audio to that for some reason. They just had a bunch of had the slideshow going. Rooster, can you hear me? How did you get dead air? Yeah, Glenis, I don't think they found Hillary's tapes, or if they did, they buried them in the compound. Maybe that's what they were doing when they bulldozed it. That might have been the purpose of that whole cover up, is to cover up another crime. Isn't that the best way to do it? Cover one crime up with another? Isn't that a good process and tactic by all gangsters? But I don't know. I don't even know how to explain that New Mexico case there with that DA dropping the ball when you see all the other malfeasance by the government when people commit baseless crimes, and how they get people off on this case is just beyond me. Other than federal intimidation and telling them to let them go, find a way to let them go, make it so, because they're in our pocket people. Is still my theory until proven otherwise. It's just like the Vegas thing. It's too shady to be what's being reported in the news. Far too shady. So moving on, and there's tons of economic collapse going on and countries collapsing. We missed kind of the Turkey thing this week. So I did have a story about the Turkey currency. It's interesting that it mentions the rupee in this article, which is out of the UK. This is updated as of last night. So the Turkish lira is selling heavily this afternoon following a report of a potential resignation from the deputy governor at the country's central bank. So it says here is everything you need to know as the Argentina peso and Indian rupee fall to a record low as well. Are we on the brink of a world economic crash? Wow, you never would have thought those words have been said 5-6 years ago, when pretty much we were all preaching, be prepared, be ready. I don't know that that's necessarily what's going to happen, because after looking at some other reports and articles about how this whole stuff's tied, scarily enough, it all still relies on the faith of the people. And as long as the people still have faith in these systems, it's not going to collapse. We're going to have a lot of hard times. And most importantly, the U.S. currency is going to drag all these, while the U.S. currency may be too strong and the dollar remains top dog, it'll drag all these currencies wherever it wants to go. So much of it has to do with that. U.S. dollar is up 4%. This is of Thursday evening to the Turkish currency. Comparatively, since the start of the year, the lira has dropped around 40%. So this is obviously, we talked about, tied into the tariffs that were imposed last week. We briefly touched on. It says here, President Aragon has always favored rapid growth over inflation, which is currently at more than 15%. 15% inflation. Can you imagine? And just like Trump, he calls himself the enemy of interest rates, has instead pressured the central bank against money tightening, just like Trump. Nobody wants tightening under their watch because it makes their economy look bad. It's all baked in the process, in the sideshow. Also around the world, the Argentina peso currently stands at 0.02 to the pound, and Indian rupee is now at 0.11 to the pound. The rupee is also suffering due to rising oil prices and strong month-end dollar demand, whatever that means. Why there's a bigger demand at the end of the month, I don't know. increasing imports and ballooning account deficit in Turkey. They close out here. Chairman and Chief Investment Officer for the fund East Capital says, high domestic demand is always enjoyable while it lasts, and the leadership, keen to gather some support prior to the snap elections in June, has long decided to ignore the signs of overheating and even possibly discouraged the central bank not to change the course of treatment, as he calls it here, the doctor. Calling the central bank the doctor. That's funny. Blue Bay asset management strategist noted on Thursday that the central bank had failed again to mitigate the currency slide and are basically missing in action. Here we go again, he said. They need to do so much better than this. Oh, goodness. Hey, Shoot with Uncle Dan. What's going on? Good morning. So that's the Turkey situation. And it gets worse from there. The Argentina peso basically plunged overnight on Wednesday, I think it was. This article's from yesterday afternoon. And listen to the numbers. Argentine central bank lifts interest rate to 60% from 45%, but fails to halt the peso fall. So that's when people have totally lost confidence. And we're at, fractions of that. And Trump's afraid to let them move the interest rates that we have because there's no way America can handle 45% interest. It would definitely collapse everything. It's amazing these countries have held out this long. So I guess the emergency rate hike and Argentine peso collapsed Thursday, notching a new low, while separately Turkey's currency turmoil continued. So they're all acknowledging they're similarly tied together in some ways. And Greg Hunter did a good breakdown last night. He didn't spend too much time on the currencies, but talked about them being tied together in the emerging markets in particular. And there was another, I'd have to see who else did one, but definitely be on the lookout for any articles talk about emerging market debt crises. Turkish and Argentine woes are in the idiosyncratic category, but it's hard to shake the prevailing concern that debt levels are too high. What about the debt levels in the United States? We have more debt than we make in GDP in a year. Isn't that kind of concerning? And that the gradual turn in, I'm continuing on with what he says, and that the gradual turn in global monetary policy is water torture for highly indebted current account deficient economies. That's Kit Jukis, global macro strategist. Global macro strategist. I want that job title. That just sounds cool, don't it? Global macro strategist. You're a macro strategist. Doesn't that sound like pretty important? Like you're pretty good at what you do and whatnot? Indeed, the woes plaguing Turkey and Argentina appear to be largely homegrown. The U.S. dollar bought 38.75 Argentine pesos on Thursday, up 14% after it jumped as high as 41.5 pesos, even after Argentina's central bank delivered an emergency rate increase, lifting its benchmark from 45 to 60% before and pledging not to cut before December. So imagine that. You invest. So the whole point is to raise these interest rates so people will buy your money as an investment. So they'll come in and buy bonds or other investment potential items because you're already getting 15% more in return. The only concern is you're not going to be able to have the money to pay up to begin with. And that's why this stuff continues to spin out of control. Everybody's like, you're not going to be able to repay it anyway. Why would I invest at 50, 60, 100, 200%? It doesn't matter. At some point, there's a tipping point where people are just like, it's unrealistic to expect a return on investment. Imagine getting a 45% on return. Like, why wouldn't you invest there unless you know that things are so shaky and inflation is so bad that the government is just going to print money to sidetrack your investment anyway? And that's what's happening. So the Argentine president, Mauricio Macri, on Wednesday said that he would ask the International Monetary Fund to speed the release of standby funds from the country's $50 billion credit line. $50 billion ain't a whole lot in U.S. terms. I guess in Argentine terms, that might get them through the year. Maybe $50 billion is nothing in a world economy, the way things work nowadays. And that also, again, primarily is going to create inflation. The Argentine peso has fallen around 52% versus the dollar year to date. And it goes on to talk about the Turkish lira, as we just discussed, is traded not far off the all-time low it set in mid-August. The lira is down nearly 44% against the dollar this year, with confidence rattled in part by the confrontational tone of President Erdogan, who has attacked the central bank's independence and rallied against rate increases. Going on down, talking about the U.S.-Mexico trade deal. Everything dropped after that down there. Most emerging market currencies are on the back foot against the U.S. dollar, said De Groot, whoever that is. He's another macro strategy guy. He's the head of macro strategy at Rabobank. Never heard of Rabobank. He noted that the dollar is marching higher against the yuan, Chinese yuan, in offshore trade, while the South African rand, whose ticker symbol ZAR, was also under pressure. The dollar was up 1.1%. It's almost like there's a conspiracy to make the dollar better than all the other currencies. It's almost like there's something leverage the dollar has that everybody else doesn't, like maybe being used in the oil trade or other such things. Going on to the U.S. side, our expectations the Federal Reserve will continue on its path of gradual rate increases and balance sheet unwinding add to the troubled backdrop for emerging markets. Higher U.S. yields, and in particular a stronger U.S. dollar, can put strain on emerging markets given heavy borrowing in the U.S. A stronger dollar can make it more difficult to service dollar-denominated debt. So it's a catch-22, especially if you're in the U.S. All that stuff it goes on down a little bit more here, and it closes out Turkey. After Turkey and Argentina, South Africa and Colombia have the next largest deficit as a share of gross domestic product, Jones said, while noting that the currencies of emerging markets with significant current account surpluses, including Thailand, South Korea, and Malaysia, have been relatively resilient thus far, I guess you'd say. So it's all about the strength versus the rest of the world, not necessarily the strength against ourselves, I guess you would say, when we look at our own U.S. problems. It's definitely not a we're not in a little bubble. We definitely are influenced and influence everybody else when we do things with our own currency. Hey, HRM Weapons Machinist, good morning. Yeah, imagine the Fed charging 15. Imagine the Fed charging 7. Let's just get back to, like 1980s interest rates and see what happens to the economy. It would be chaos. I suspect. My suspect would be that. Moving on to another tab I had up. What one was this one about? That's about South Africa. This is the Argentina Central Bank hikes rates 60% as the currency collapses. So there's another one on. These are all, remember, links are in your description box below. I'm pretty sure I got all these in there. We kind of hit all this, but let me just go through the bullets they have here in CNBC. This was updated 12 hours ago. Investors increasingly concerned Latin America's third largest, could soon default as it struggles to repay heavy government borrowing. The peso is down more than 45% against the greenback this year, exacerbating pre-existing fears of the country's weakening economy and inflation running at 25.4%. The President Macri, as we just said, is quoted, "I know that these tumultuous situations generate anxiety among many of you. I understand this, and I want you to know that I'm making all decisions necessary to protect you." Right. That's why you have a central bank in charge, because you're trying to protect the people. That doesn't pass there, tough guy. Talk about the IMF loan. It's probably nothing new, just probably reworded stuff down here. So Argentina is going to have a 60% interest rate until December at least. Well, at least they promised. I mean, they pinky swore promised, I'm sure, with their fingers crossed behind their back. But lowering them's not going to do any good, because lowering is going to dissuade even any investment. And who's going to invest in an economy that's inflationary nightmare? There's the peso in comparison to the dollar graph. That's pretty telling. You just got that spike. I mean, just straight up. It's not good in any chart. Here's one. So just to kind of put this in perspective, the 3-year standby financing agreement between the IMF and Argentina is designed to improve the country's ailing economy and help it fight inflation, which at nearly 30% per year is one of the highest rates worldwide. How does the IMF loan help fight inflation? We're getting more money into a system, it doesn't fight inflation. I don't know how the economists think that works, but sure, you guys go for that. Keep selling that bus. All right. Hey, Alicia, good morning. How you doing? HRM Ford stock is always near the Moody junk status. Is that right? And I wonder why that is, because they were doing pretty strong there after they didn't take the bailout, and it's still pretty low, I guess. I stopped following it when I jumped off the stock market train back in like 2010, 2012. I used to follow Ford stock in particular. Rooster says the Rabobank is here in California. Okay, I'd never heard of it. You started to see them pop up after the mini depression in 08. Okay, good to know. Rabobank was like new to me. Like, okay, sounds like pretty small time, but if they're in Cali, they got to be big time, right? Hey, Tommy Boy, what's up? That's a 14, Tommy Boy, 2014. Good morning, Smolo. What's going on, Smoking Locust, how you doing? Fractual Truth, good morning. How you doing? Thanks for joining us. Thanks for checking in. Remember, links are in the description box. So moving on to collapsing economies and collapsing countries due to all the numerous reasons out there. Checking back in on the South African water situation with a quick search, and it's still going. So the Eastern Cape in South Africa, this is an article as of the 29th, so Wednesday. Water and Sanitation Department to implement 80% water restrictions in Eastern Cape. Wow. So let's see how far that'll get them. But we were already talking about even after the winter started down there and they eased up on some of their water restrictions, apparently their winter didn't go very well for them. So basically states to avoid a natural disaster, the Department of Water and Sanitation is expected to implement an 80% water restriction in the Eastern Cape. So that's everything over in Johannesburg and that area. I think there's some other provinces, but basically that eastern side of the country. The decision was made after the department's regional head met with farmers from the drought-stricken towns, list of them there, that are in the Eastern Cape. According to the department's spokesman, the farmers in the area had initially asked for 60% water restriction. The department's weekly report on national dam levels revealed that the Kouga Dam had dropped 6.8%. This sparked fears that unless it rained soon, there would be no water. That's a pretty bleak outlook, as it says here. That's a bleak picture of the water situation in the Algoa region, including the Nelson Mandela Bay Metro, where the drought has gripped the area for more than a year. Yeah, I don't know what South Africa is going to do. They try to seize all these farms. They don't have the water to farm them to begin with, little less have the ability to farm them. So this is mostly about dam water, it looks like, though. So I don't know how they do with wells. I would think that they have some type of well system as well. So the short-term solution, the department has provided the Kouga local municipality with 2 18,000-liter water tanks as emergency water. Let me find this on the map, on a map, any map, right? If I can here, while I'm still going through this. The Water Resources representative said that the Water Resources Planning Systems Directorate would monitor the situation monthly and would also provide expert advice, adding that it also provided expert advice on groundwater exploration. So they do drilling, groundwater exploration, however you want to term it. Let's get over here. Find a map. Much easier for me to think about this. Water restrictions are being enforced in accordance with drought operating rules for each dam. The Water Authority went on to say Rahimbi, or the Rand, 1.09 million rands had been allocated to the municipality from the first round drought funding allocations, which were used for groundwater exploration in Hankey and Patensi. So they've been spending money on some groundwater exploration, but they haven't followed through, I guess. Let me get the world map over there to South Africa. Nevada's dry, but it's not that dry yet. No water, no life, right, Alicia? That's the way it works, pretty much. Tommy boy, you're looking at a white 2014 Jeep right now. They want $15K. That might be a fairly decent deal, Tommy. Just depending on what they put into it, how many miles, you know how that stuff kind of works out. The bad thing with a lot of used Jeeps is they're well used, if you know what I mean. But the way people treat Jeeps now, too, I mean, a lot of people just use them for road vehicles. So, and if the way the market works on those things, they usually have a pretty high resale. So, just depending on what they've done to it, if any modifications or anything, aftermarket stuff might be a go. Especially if it's one of the upsized, Rubicons or something. Let's see, where are we talking about? The name of these places. And we get back to the short list. Jeffreys Bay, Oyster Bay, and Humansdorp. I'm going to have to type it in, aren't I? There's Morgan's Bay. Did it say Morgan's Bay? No, Oyster Bay, Jeffreys. All these people have their own bay, and I can't even get a street named after me. What's up with that? There's Jeffreys Bay. Okay. So this is down on the very southern Still Bay. Humansdorp. So let me pull this over on the map. Give everybody the idea where we're talking about. So here's Port Elizabeth, the very southern tip of the country. And you can see Jeffreys Bay comes in here, Humansdorp. So this is the part of the country it looks like they're discussing with these large reservoirs that run through the country here. But that goes back to desalinization. We've talked about it since we've looked into the whole Cape Town issue with waters. Desalinization is definitely being, it's just like LA. Why doesn't LA have massive desalinization project? Why? Why indeed? So that's kind of a location of it all. So another article on the municipal loose cannons in line by changing protocols. So this has to do with the South Africa water. That's a law professor quote. So the chaos that passes for municipal governments is 62% of our municipalities can be untangled because much of it is systemic and not all due to pure maladministration and or incompetence. Because the communists are running the show now. So this is mostly about governance, so they want to get into the water issue. I thought I pulled it up because it was about the water. I just pulled it up because it was a recent article. I figured it was on topic, though, from yesterday. So it's going into this, the dire state of municipal governments in South Africa has been in the news for much of this year. Recent events in Mfuleni, an urban municipality with more than 700,000 residents in Gauteng, the country's economic hub, show the extent of the problem. The municipality located to the south of Johannesburg has been unable to settle water and electricity debts owed to the utilities Rand Water and Eskom. This has led to services of residents being reduced or cut. Lack of infrastructure maintenance has further bedeviled the delivery of water and electricity, as well as rubbish removal. So all their public services are pretty much shutting down. They're probably going to be nationalized soon. I mean, they're talking about taking all this farming area, it's only a short leap to take over all the other public services here to nationalize them and bring them into the scope of the central government. Sewage spills have plagued suburbs and severely polluted the Vai River, the main source of drinking water in the province. That doesn't help anybody when there's a water shortage. It is also crucial to tourism and agriculture. The municipality's entire basic vehicle fleet was recently in the municipality. this is like something out of Chicago. The municipality's entire basic vehicle fleet was recently repossessed by creditors. South Africa is collapsing at the cyclic rate. It's shortly behind Venezuela. It's only a matter of time. Caption below the picture here: South African towns are falling apart. Trash heaps line the potholed streets of Edenville in central South Africa, where residents complain that municipal services have ground to a near halt. Crime is rampant and jobs are scarce. Very much similar to what was going on in Venezuela. And on top of South Africa's problem, you have a potential civil war, genocide starting. Has started, just is not at the super hot level yet. Still waiting for Western Cape to get a full secession in place. The national minister responsible for municipalities recently said 31% of the country's municipalities are dysfunctional, and another 31% almost dysfunctional. He went on to say that many South African municipalities are battling with financial management as well as good governance and administration, kind of like the central government having the same struggles. Given its extensive infrastructure and large tax base, Mfuleni is the kind of municipality that has little excuse not to function well. If it is failing, how could less developed municipalities thrive? Well, they don't. Let me see where this is at. This is said south of Johannesburg. How large is large? I guess would be the question. Can't see it from the... Said it was to the south, right? I don't see it. Can't be that big then, right? Must be further away than it let on in that article. I don't see nothing that size down here. But yeah, you figure if it's got if it's a larger location, how can everybody else thrive when it can't? But when you use communist principles to govern, that's what happens. According to the National Treasury's Municipal Finance Data website, Mfuleni has a healthy cash balance in 2015, or had a healthy cash balance in 2015. And then it fell by over a third in 2016 before collapsing in 2017. The communists must have got in charge then. Sucked all the money out of it. While the municipality did have problems with wasteful expenditure and budget overspending before, things got much worse after the local government elections in August 2016. Yep. Similar to what happened in the rest of Africa. The municipality has also been experiencing political turmoil. Previous mayor resigned in 2017. Financial mismanagement rumors, yada, yada. Cash shortages, raising revenue. Now they're going to blame the people for not paying their taxes. A number of factors affect these revenue streams. The first is that a culture of non-payment is pervasive among residents. Basically, people don't want to pay their fees. Government's going to complain about not getting enough money. Secondly, service revenue is also often affected by supply side constraints, such as water scarcity or power cuts. And lastly, a revenue stream based on consumption also assumes that most residents can afford services. That isn't always the case, right? It's the people's fault for not giving us all their money so we can waste it. It's a common government complaint. Ask Stockton, California, when they went bankrupt. Yeah. So it's just an example of here's a tweet with a map. Maybe that'll help me a little bit. Ifuimo, so it's way south down here. Welcome. Well, I think we saw that. At risk of being cut off. Top 10 local municipalities for debt owned to Escom, which I think is their water supplier company. So they've listed 10 different municipal areas that are in danger of this happening. Oh, it looks like it may have two different names to it. Influini is also called Vanderbilge Park. That's the problem. It's got two names. So Google Maps goes off because there's Volcom. Vanderbilt Park is there. So this is what we're talking about. This area. Right, just south of Johannesburg. That's the problem. They use two different names. So to couple their problems, as it mentions here in this tweet, more than 70% of Influini's gross domestic product is based on the steel mills and metal manufacturing industry, which now faces 14-hour blackouts because of the municipality's non-payment. So not only is you're hurting your populace, but your industry can't run because of no electricity. Killing it all. Kill it all. It's South Africa is, yeah, it's bad, and nobody's covering the this other collapse going on. Everybody's kind of, now that they finally picked up steam, you had the whole Donald Trump tweet about South Africa. It's all about, the land expropriation, but there's all these other back issues with the water shortages and everything, and all the other things obviously that lead up to that. Like, and it's nationwide. It's not localized. JAF UFM. How do I say that, or just JAEFUFM? Sounds weird to spell out an acronym. It's supposed to like say it somehow. JUFM. I'll try to work on that. Good morning. How you doing? Yeah, the mass starvation is going to be in full effect if it's not already slightly in process already, especially in the poor populations that are already starving, which most countries have a certain amount of the population that is in that boat all at the beginning to begin with. It's bad. So we got Turkey, Argentina, South Africa, all covered this morning. Remember, links are below. And also at the bottom of your links, we've got, if you haven't followed Land of Land and Land yet, he does a Fake News Friday story. Go check that out. That's at the bottom of your links for your entertainment, and mine, of course, as well. But also, there was a very good article in the Zero Hedge. Let me refresh that to see what's up to date on that. Not buying your plus size lingerie. Okay. So this article came out of Zero Hedge, and this will shake up some people's cognitive dissonance. Potentially, it might be a good article to read, get your own head wrapped around for speaking to your fellow brethren about, but is via the Mises Institute, and basically just running down the rabbit trail of people who consider themselves pro Second Amendment and pro military, and about how you can't be both in reality. We kind of push that line in the United States much further down than the founders would have ever intended. Definitely go read the article. It's fairly lengthy, but it's over the target. The Second Amendment was written to counter a tyrannical military force, not to promote one that could overwhelm the use of the Second Amendment by its populace, is kind of the theme of it. And definitely makes a strong argument for eliminating the standing army, which is what we need to do, especially fiscally speaking, if not to counter the excessive force that can be used by a tyrannical government using that military against the people. But it's a really good article, and since I'm running kind of short on time, I'll just kind of point you that direction. You can definitely read it on your own and absorb it at your own pace, but it breaks down on how that why what it really means. But you have a majority of people who consider themselves conservatives feel them to be both pro Second Amendment and pro military, and how you're really hurting your own cause to be on board with both of those agendas. You got to choose one, kind of, is the angle, which I would tend to agree with. Even if you, and even at a minimum, you have to argue against a standing army just from a fiscal standpoint. So go check that out. Definitely. If you're for your own, we probably cover this a little bit more in depth, maybe in the chat Saturday, if we get that going. This would definitely be a good topic starter and bring in a little bit more discussion to the issue there. But I wanted to at least put it out there because it was on the Zero Hedge late last night, and I thought it was a very telling, very good article, very well explained. It's not a bomb throwing or nothing, just explaining kind of the cognitive dissonance that goes with the within the groups and whatnot. But thanks for checking in. Thanks for joining us on this Friday morning. Hope everybody's getting wound up for a good weekend. Don't forget, our giveaway for our subscriber giveaway ends tomorrow night, 23:59 hours Nevada time. So I hate to call it Pacific Standard Time because we're not on the Pacific Coast, so I call it Nevada time. But that same time is what California has, unfortunately. So the contest will get your VRs in, get your comments into the video contest giveaway video on the main channel. Go check that out if you haven't seen that yet. Win a little bit of prep and survival, just everyday carry gear. Something to have in the pocket, and just to show appreciation to everybody for putting up with us all these years and dropping by and checking us out. So you guys go out and have a good day. Enjoy your Friday, and hopefully enjoy a good weekend. If we don't see you between now and then, have a good Labor Day holiday as well if you're getting one, which that doesn't include everybody always, right? All right, check out the links below for any other news information you want, and we'll see you back here maybe tomorrow morning. Yeah, right, Saturday morning. All right, live free.